8 reasons to change jobs. Reasons to change jobs. Changing jobs is always stressful. A new place, new people, each with their own yet unknown features, new rules and new responsibilities. In my experience, the average adaptation time in a new team is 2 to 3 months. Plus, changing jobs is risky. The risk of not passing the probationary period, not settling down in a new team, not coping with the responsibility assigned. But, despite all this, people leave their homes. After working 2/3 or more years in companies, they begin to study the job list, and, in the end, they leave. What caused it? 1. Low pay, probably the most popular reason for changing jobs. In principle, this is normal. Why? Well, on the one hand, I have never seen people perform only their official duties and nothing else in all the time of my work. That is, after 6 months. A year, the realization comes that you work for 1.5 or 2 people, but you get one salary. On the other hand, very often, when people work for a long time in one place, a feeling of their own significance and irreplaceability arises. Weller wrote well about this. A person may not even care to realize the importance of his work. Time and nature will do it for him. The system of his sensations will be corrected over time so that there will be a feeling of the significance of his work, and this feeling will be fed up to the consciousness, and the consciousness will form this feeling into arguments why his work is important and significant enough. Arguments can be at any level, from, today it's not my turn to carry water, to, where you go, you can't, your pass has a seal on the wrong side. On the third hand, professional growth and increased responsibility have not been cancelled. And in many companies, the reaction of the authorities is rather slow, and acts according to the principle, they don't ask, it means everything suits. The adequacy of the level of wages is a separate issue. I have a friend who at one point decided that he should receive more. He began to go to interviews in top companies. How many times he failed them, history is silent, but he did not pass the probationary period twice. But on the third time he succeeded, and he began to receive 2.5 times more than at the first workplace. On the other hand, some people have a prejudice about money. Several times I met with the stereotype, I get XXX dollars, and no one will pay more for this work. And this despite the fact that any site with vacancies at that time was full of offers with 1.5 to 2 times higher wages. These proposals were dismissed as poor quality. The main thing here is not to lose objectivity and, in an effort to get more money, do not forget about the development and state of the labor market. So that the problem of the price and value of participation of this employee in the work of the company does not arise. By the way, very often, when dismissed, the argument, they pay little, hides a number of problems, which, for one reason or another, there is no desire to voice. For example, 2. Lack of growth and prospects. Many people want to move forward, apply and develop new skills, use new technologies. Despite the fact that any leader in words with both hands for the development of both employees and processes, in life everything turns out a little differently. The worker is often required to perform a certain sequence of actions to obtain a known result. Attempts to make changes in the organization of processes or an increased concern for quality can be perceived as sabotage. It is clear that such an approach simply kills creativity and initiative. If, in addition to the lack of professional development, there is no career growth in such a company, an actively developing employee will be out of the way with the company in a year. 3. The desire to change the field of activity. It happens that in the process of work we realize that we are not doing what we would really like to do. What is the problem here? And in the fact that in the current sphere a person can already represent something of himself as a specialist, but nothing in the new one. No experience, no knowledge, no connections. This is a very big risk. On the other hand, working in a new, desirable specialty is likely to be fueled by personal enthusiasm and interest, which in the first couple may slightly compensate for the lack of experience. In any case, the desire to find yourself and do what you love is a worthy goal. 4. Problems in the team. Several times during my work I observed how quite qualified specialists were simply squeezed out of the workplace. Only because they did not agree in their views with the authorities or the team. It is very important to understand here that dismissal is an escape from the problem. If for the performer, this, in general, can be a solution, then for the manager, no. There can be several reasons for such conflicts. excessive categoricalness in judgments, intolerance, unwillingness to engage in dialogue, and avoidance of problems. And so on. In any case, if this problem has affected you, this is an occasion to think about improving your communication skills. 5. Change of boss. Change of bosses in some cases can be equated to a change of job, especially if it happens because of the crisis. Working conditions and rules are changing. At the same time, the change of leadership quite often takes place in a rather nervous and tense atmosphere. The only advice is not to succumb to general panic and, having assessed the new working conditions, make a decision whether you should continue working at this place or not. 6. They don't listen to me often. An employee of the company develops well during his work and receives the status of an expert in his field. At the same time, problems often arise due to the fact that the authorities do not listen to his expert opinions. The problem here is that, firstly, this employee may not have a complete vision of the picture of the project or the company's activities, with a high level of technical knowledge. Secondly, when making a decision, the employee risks, in the worst case, his salary, while the company's management risks its business. That is, they will of course listen to expert opinion, but the decision can be made taking into account factors unknown to the employee. What can you do? This is the fate of most people working for hire. 7. Working conditions. My first place of work above our office was a bowling alley. From 13 o'clock it became difficult to work without headphones, although they did not save from vibrations. For fun, our sound engineers determined how many tracks were playing. In second place, the whole company, approximately 15 people, worked in the same room. It is not difficult to guess that the constant movement of people and a stable level of noise did not affect performance very positively. People are known to get used to everything. Poor working conditions have never been cited as the main reason for leaving these companies. But there were an additional and very significant factor in choosing a new place. 8. Getting fired. This is probably one of the most annoying reasons for changing jobs. The main thing in this situation is not to try to blame all the problems on the authorities and not to panic. Retirement provides a good reason to reflect. What is your real level? What mistakes did you make? Is there a desire to continue working in this area, or is it time to change the field of activity? Retirement is a last resort. Also, do not assume that this brings any pleasure to the management. For most managers, this decision is extremely painful. But it means only one thing: you and the company are not on the way. On the same topic, I want to quote one more fragment from the book Way of Trade, ****. The student asked the master, "Master, I can't understand the essence of what everyone is raving about." Namely, in Japanese, the character for the word crisis consists of two characters that mean problem and opportunity. So what? The teacher frowned. You really don't understand? It's horrible. Get out of school. The student was taken aback. But tomorrow I can return? You will understand when it will be possible for you to return, the teacher snapped. 2 days passed. This student knocked on the door of the school. The teacher came out to him and said, "Don't say anything, I won't believe you. Go away." The rest of the disciples stood behind him, afraid to utter even a word. No one understood what caused master's anger. About a year passed, and the disciple reappeared on the threshold. The teacher examined him carefully, smiled and said, "Now you really understand." And when the student came in, the teacher suggested that he tell the other students everything. The day after I left the school, the student said, "The owner of the I worked said that I no longer needed my services. I guessed that it was not without the teacher, and I came, but, you remember, the teacher sent me away again." The teacher smiled. "You can't imagine how difficult it was to persuade the boss to part with you. I understood this only later. I tried very hard to find a job, but I could not find a suitable one, and I had a family to support. Then I created my own firm. Less than a year later, my firm today is one of the largest in its industry. Now I really understand what these hieroglyphs mean, and there are no words. Teacher, how grateful I am to you." Teacher. ****. So, the question remains, what does personal effectiveness have to do with it? It directly depends on responsibilities, working conditions of the team. Agree that doing useless, nasty work in the same room with people that are unpleasant to you is quite difficult. Smiley face. It is important to remember that the relationship between the employer and the employee is, in general, equal. Therefore, if something does not suit you, solve the problem. There is no possibility. Look for options, weigh, make a decision and act. But at the same time, you need to understand that changing jobs is, to some extent, avoiding problems. In a new place, there will be other difficulties that will have to be solved in the same way, only your loyalty to the company and management may be higher. What definitely should not be done is to endure and do nothing. If you do not like the work, there is no desire to do it well, there is no development. But there are nerves and a lot of negative emotions. And this is not necessary for you or the employer. Value your time.